Sorry to Bother You is crazy. I mean, like, really crazy. It's like nothing you've ever seen before, and we've all seen Get Out. At first, it feels like this really trippy mind but really it's this brilliant way of discussing how people of color exist in white spaces.
We will have a transformative experience.
This film is a racial satire, and first-time director Boots Riley described it as...
This is an absurdist dark comedy with magical realism and science fiction, inspired by the world of telemarketing.
But I would describe it as a magnifying glass on how racism operates and the tools that we use to survive in places where white people can easily thrive. The main character, played by Lakeith Stanfield, is in a very vulnerable space when we meet him.
I just really need a job. 40 on 2.
Cassius ends up getting a job in telemarketing, and he sucks at first, like point blank period. But Danny Glover's character teaches him.
You want to make some money here? Then read the script with a white voice.
So a lot of black people have a white voice that they put on when they're in an interview or talking to their white coworkers or in a space where they are among the only ones. And that's called code switching. In the film, code switching is dramatized, and it's this really extra white voice that Danny Glover in the film describes as not what white people actually sound like on a regular basis, but what they think they sound like.
I'm not talking about Will Smith's wife. I'm talking about the real deal, like this young blood.
Hey, Mr. Kramer, this is Langston from Regal View. I didn't catch you at the wrong time, did I?
Danny Glover makes this distinction, and it's a really important point because a lot of white people, they're really casual when they talk, as people should be. And they're not this extra peppy, polite voice because that's not how we talk in real life. But when you hear Cassius's dubbed over voice,
as always, we'll be getting that out to you right away.
The reason why it's so peppy, the reason why it's so accommodating is because he has to convince white people to ignore his skin color and see him as an equal. And Cassius finds out that he's really good at using his white voice. And it becomes a win that he desperately needs to get out of the rut that he's in.
You're doing so good with the voice thing.
Holla, 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 holla.
And though this film is about extreme magical realism, that part was like eerily real because you have to, as a black person, overdo your politeness or overdo your masking of your identity in some places in order to get a job, in order to get adequate customer service, in order to not be perceived as a threat. So this superimposed voice, though dramatic, it makes a really good point. I'm a black girl from the Midwest with a Southern drawl. Honestly, I code switched my entire life when I was away from my friends or family or, just people who look like me. I noticed that I would change the way that I spoke. I didn't have a word for it quite yet, but I knew that I altered myself. Then as I came into adulthood and understood that I'm black regardless, and you're gonna take this and you're gonna love it or not, then I just decided there's no point in me code switching. I realized that it's a privilege for me to not have to code switch every day because so many people of color don't have that option. The only times that I really code switch these days is when I'm talking to law enforcement or customer service for obvious reasons. And so for Cassius, who is a true underdog, the mask goes even deeper because he ends up sacrificing himself and his morals for something that he's never had before.
Well, there's no amount of money that make me do that.
Here's the starting salary.
Well, man, I'm gonna have to get me some new suits.
This film gets real about making these decisions.
It is morally emaciated.
I can't ride with you.
So many black and brown people have to constantly use the tools that Cassius Green used in this film in order to just operate and survive in the world. We have to mask and dilute our blackness, our brownness, our color to kind of quote unquote fit into a white world, and it robs us of our identity. I mean, look at kids all over the country being punished and suspended from schools just because of the way that their hair naturally grows out of their heads. Or look at the Black graduates who just wanted to celebrate their collegiate accomplishments just by dancing across the stage, but were physically pushed by a school official. Racial bullying is real and it's happening everywhere in this country. And that's why Cassius Green and so many people code switch. Code switching can be a useful tool, but it doesn't protect Black people from the racist bullshit that we face on a daily basis. At the end of the day, it didn't work for the 2 Black men who were arrested in Starbucks simply waiting for a meeting. It certainly didn't work for Philando Castile, who was calm and cooperative, according to his girlfriend when he got pulled over, but ended up losing his life. This is where the film doesn't seem that absurd anymore, because we're still Black, we're still seen as threats, and we're still unwelcome in many spaces in our own country, regardless of how we style our hair, wear our clothes, or alter our speech. Until we confront everyday racism and the byproducts of it, we're going to continue to see art mimic life in these very absurdist and horrific ways.